This is the weekly recap of this previous quarter, right? So week 3 of February. So I won't try to make it a very quick one, right? Just highlight the trading opportunities that we had this week and the reasons behind it. And I'm going to try to go as quickly as possible. I just want to keep it short. And here I'm just going to do it the way I do it, right? So before trying to trade or before even looking at any new week, right? So the most important thing to know is the previous week. So personally, this is all I do look at. I do look at, right? So I don't go beyond the monthly cycle within my trading. I rarely do that. Maybe if I want to hold, which I don't really do, right? So this is basically each monthly cycle. So I look at the previous week and the current week, which is basically the monthly cycle, right? Because I'm looking at 2 weeks of the month. It makes it a monthly cycle, and this is all I ever want to do. Before entering the current week, I always look at the previous week, see the gaps, what is in the high and the low. And for this week too, we did have the high right there at 25,400 and the low at 24,520, right? 24,516, right? That was our low. And so now after knowing that, you have to be some operation, right? You have to wait for the week, for your current week. You have to let your current week build up. So that is letting Monday play out, right? So that's when you guys, when you're ICT talking about Monday, basically Monday you have to. Sometimes yeah, there's Mondays that expand. It's true, it's there, but it's still, even if you miss out on a Monday that expands, you just have to use it, as a factor. You know, like you have to use it in a way that you have to consider it as a factor in influencing your weekly cycle, right? Because that's what it's used for mainly. So yeah, we had Monday. We're going to drop down now to the 1 hour. So when we drop down here, we have we basically on the 1 hour, right? So we have looked at our monthly cycle, which is basically our 2 weeks. So previous week and current week, right? And then we drop down to the 1 hour. So on the 1 hour here, look at our weekly cycle, right? So the first thing is Monday. So this week's Monday was, was a holiday or something like that. I'm not sure. There was some government stuff going on, so there was no much market activity, right? So I personally did not trade here, and I will not look at Monday. That's because so there was trading opportunities. Obviously, I know some people traded, but still there was no trading there. So in my case, so we're just going to use it as to look at what the week is going to do, right? So here he did the thing, basically accumulation, right? Very clear, refused to go anywhere significant, nothing, right? So US 30 took out the previous week's Friday, which was a gap, right? And then the crucial, like the crucial level here would have been the weekly low, which it did not do, right? So now after seeing that, what do we expect on Tuesday? We expect Tuesday to be manipulation of this week of the accumulation, right? So which involves checking out this previous week's low. So this is exactly what Tuesday did. Tuesday cleared the previous week's low, and that's how we're able to get the monthly cycle correction entry, the crack between Q2 and Q3, right? When we go back in the 4 hour, that's what we saw earlier, right? So the crack was basically between US 30 and the rest of the asset. US 30 and so US 30 had the failure swing, uh, NQ and ES. So in this case, I'm using the forex indices, which is not pretty much the same thing, right? So they had lower lows, and this is what did you get, right? So when we're going to drop down to this Tuesday candle, we're going to start with Tuesday. There was nothing much to do on Monday, right? So On Tuesday we had, we're going to drop down the 15 minutes so we can see it closely. So here we had both shorts and longs, right, within this same Tuesday candle, which is Q2, right? So we can see here we had a daily cycle, both bearish and bullish, right? So now which one held? Obviously the bullish one held because it was backed up by the monthly cycle sequential SMT, right? So you expect that to happen. Now, could we get the shorts? Could we short the daily cycle sequential SMT? Yes, it gave us some decent shorts, right? For those that traded, I personally didn't trade it, right? I was just, this whole week I was just kind of wishing and, because I expected it to be a shop. I wish, there was actually decent trading opportunities, and this is what happened, right? So if you go back to the 1 hour time frame, you guys, we can notice that here, after this, it's a very common sequence, right? After getting some sort of gap, we get a gap, and that gap will normally hold for at least some time, right? So here we had this gap after the Friday, Monday sequential SMT, right? And that gap got revisited, boom, dropped us lower, wasn't enough. We formed this gap again, revisited the gap once again, right? So you could say that order block, right? But we traded into it, and then we dropped for the final time, which is what actually gave us the crack. Because if you see here, this wasn't a clear manipulation, right? So we dropped lower, right? So this was the shorts and then the longs, right? So now we can go back to the 15-minute time frame and we have a quick at how it actually played out, right? So now that I've marked out that gap, I hope this is, kind of clear for you guys. I'm just making this so that we are able to identify it easily. So the gray background, I think is still this, right? So open 9:30, open into that gap, into that order block, daily cycle, SMT. So you could have literally shorted this 9:45, right? Which is what came here and dropped, gave us another daily, we gave us the long afterwards, right? So that was one trading opportunity or two of them. So the shorts and the longs, obviously the longs held, and the longs were actually, all these trades are good to be honest, because these were all some mad points, right? Though the overall or the one that actually was more decent, right? If you following the high time frame or the longs, because we had cleared the previous week's low, giving out that monthly cycle SMT. So that was it on Tuesday. Now let's go and look at Q3, which is Wednesday. See what we could have done on Wednesday, right? So I just want you guys to keep note of this, of this line here. This red line is basically the new week opening gap, right? So it's not the true open, but this is the opening gap. You can see here our price was stayed on, was staying perfectly, right? So we traded into this. So it basically what gave us the longs on Wednesday, you know, on Thursday, which is Q3, price was basically bouncing off of it, right? On Friday again, it gave us this bullish weekly cycle sequential SMT between Thursday and Friday. So this is not random, assuming you are not looking at this, right? So you might think it's random, but it's not, right? These are levels, these are important levels in price, and we have to consider them. But it's important to always consider them instead of just trying to like gamble. I saying, okay, we have this here because something forms, like the cracks that form, they don't just form, right? They form because of something that is there at the level, right? So there is something that lets or that leads to the cracks forming, right? The cracks don't just form and then check it. That's why some of the cracks are not going to work because they have no history behind them, right? So that is something that you guys have to, like always looking at the left side of the car of the price action. Seeing what happened previously, it's something very important, and that's why you have to know what happened the previous week before we go into the current week, right? So here we're going to be looking at the Wednesday, the trading opening that we had on Wednesday. Alright, so Wednesday we also had a daily cycle sequential MT, I believe. So I think you guys are seeing that normally or mostly, like more often than not, we're going to see the daily cycles. You know, we get a DC. Right, so when I say a DC, I mean a daily cycle sequential SMT, right? So when you see a DC, right, we normally going to it's going to be the low of the day. So in this case, we had with SPX 500, and that was our low of the day, right? So by far, this was like one of the decent days, and so after this close above, right, you could literally hop in here, just stop at the lows, target this, or if you want to hold longer, then you would have done that, right? So uh, Wednesday was as clear as it can possibly be, because what do you expect when you see Q2 doing its job, which is the manipulation and expanding, right? So Wednesday is literally going to be the continuation, right? So when you see Tuesday doing this, manipulating, taking out the previous week's low, also the Monday lows, you expect Wednesday, which is Q3, to do exactly what Q2 did, right? So it's going to be distribution, right? So manipulation, distribution, perfect. That's what happened here. Tuesday candle, there was, Tuesday was good, but there was nothing much to look at here. So, we'll just kind of skip it. We shall go to Wednesday. I mean to Friday, right? So when we look at the Friday candle, on Friday, we can see here that our level was holding perfectly. We did have a weekly cycle, right? So now we have a monthly cycle, weekly cycle. If you mark the high, let me do this, the high and low of that, at least at that time, right? You could see here we are also at the 50%, right? So we get a crack below the 50% of the week, right? At least at that time, yeah, it came and took out the high, but during that time, that was our low and this was our high of the week, right? So these are certain things you have to consider also. So Friday trade back into it, gave out that crack around this level, and it was worth the trade. That you could have trusted that very easily, right? Due to those conferences. So when you drop down to the 15-minute time frame, we can notice that we also had, I'm not sure what did you have here, apart from that crack 930 is whether we just short higher, right? All right. So I'm not sure. Let me look at SPX. I didn't also look at this, by the way. So we basically had a small crack. So 930, you can see the candle here, 930, no lower low. Here we had a lower low, right? So that was some sort of crack on the smaller time frames, right? Normally, when the bias is clear, why certain things are happening. Like you can you can pinpoint them, right? It's going to be very easy for the entries and all this, right? So that's why I'm normally on the high time frame. But going forward, I'll try to be, going into more details, like doing this. Not when doing these breakdowns, I'll try to keep these breakdowns coming. Also, depending on if you guys actually like it, like if you guys want me to keep dropping them, I'll try to do as much, right? So